welcome to my channel and welcome to another video about life in Italy. Today I am going to be sharing about my very personal and special experience when I was pregnant with my daughter last year and how that went and all the information that you need. My name is Hilda Gloria, and on this channel I share content about studying in Italy, studying in Europe in general, and life in Italy. And recently I used to share about fashion. That is something that probably I might have to revisit. So without wasting time, let's get into my pregnancy story and all the information that I believe is very vital for you. Things that actually shocked me, and things I'm glad that I learned on the journey. So the first thing that you need to do once you find out that you are pregnant is to inform your family doctor, or commonly known as your medico di base. Now the medico di base is usually the doctor that follows you, or that gives you a sick leave certificate, or that actually prescribes the medicine. You choose that at ASL or ASL. Usually you go to a hospital to check that out, or to get and book one. Or you should already have that if you are already a resident in Italy. If you don't have one, you go to a hospital and look for a service that is called shelter or Bravoca. And there they give you a list of all the doctors that are within your area, and then you choose one. So when you're pregnant, let's get back to the point. When you're pregnant, you go to your medico di base and you let them know about the brilliant news, and obviously they'll be very happy. I was very happy, and he congratulated us. And what they do is that they give you a priority code. Now that priority code is going to give you lots of priority, and it's also going to entitle you to getting tests free of charge, especially pregnancy tests, as you're going to do so many. Prepare to do more than 50 tests, blood tests, urine tests, a bunch of other tests as well. So you get to do all of those free of charge, as they are paid for by the National Health Insurance. And that priority code is also going to give you access to antenatal care free of charge. You're going to attend prenatal classes, you're going to go for the antenatal visits, have what we call them the scans, ultrasounds done, and everything is going to be free of charge. See an obstetrician, yes, gynecologists, and everything is going to be free, because medical care in Italy is generally free if you're going the public route. So we used the public route, as it was, first of all, financially feasible for us. We couldn't afford the private one. We tried the private one initially. We got one where we visited twice, and the price was 130 per visit. So remember, you have to visit once every month. That's times 9. Do the maths. And because my pregnancy was high risk, I was definitely put in the public one, as it is usually, I think, the procedure. That's what the obstetrician told us, that you have got to go now to the public route, because you have to see so many specialists to be able to work on your case. And when we did that, we realized that it saved us a lot of money, as all the tests that we got to do, or we were required to do, required at least 200 euros per test. Just to be precise, in the first trimester I had to do about a test every week, because of a special condition that I have, and they didn't want to pass to my daughter. Thankfully they didn't. They were able to work around it, and thank God that my daughter doesn't have it. But I'm going to tell you all of that later on. I just want to be on the list, so I don't miss things out. So after getting put on a priority list, or getting a priority code from your GP, he does it on the system. You don't have to do anything. So after getting a priority code, before I forget, make sure that you download Fascicolo Sanitario. It is the sanitary, what is the right translation? It is the health, it is like the health insurance app, where you get all the test results. So you go and do the tests in the hospital, and then you get the results on that app in the phone. so you don't have to go to the hospital. If you don't have it, you can go to the hospital and actually get a paper printed out, but actually I preferred that as I was tired of going to the hospital. I went literally almost every week for the first trimester, and it was very exhausting. So after you're done with that, you book an appointment with an obstetrician. Like I mentioned earlier on, we booked a private one because we wanted to get things done. Also, I found out really late that I was pregnant. I found out when I was 10 weeks pregnant, and the initial tests had to be done, I think, between the 6th and the 10th week. That were to determine if I was to keep the baby or not, because of my special condition, like I mentioned earlier on. So we had to get a private one to make sure that they keep us up to date, and they book us the test as soon as possible. If I had used the public route, I was given, I think, about a month, and I couldn't wait for a month because I had to actually get the tests done, otherwise I wasn't going to be permitted to keep the pregnancy. So my advice is that you book an obstetrician that is close to your home, as you're going to have to visit the hospital many times. Like I mentioned, the private one we paid, she works for the public, for the hospital. However, you can book them privately. When you go to book an appointment at a hospital, let's say to book a doctor, gynecologist appointment, obstetrician, or to see a dentist or anything, there is a service. When I remember it, I'll put it on the screen, the name in Italian. So there is a service where you go and book, and there we were told that the one from the public sector would be available, I think, after about 6 weeks, even though that was priority to them. So I think there were so many pregnant women at the time, I didn't know that. And when we say private, they were like, oh yeah, there's one next week. So we got one next week, the following week. And she was really nice. She explained everything to us. We did the blood tests, and of course she was the one to flag out that I had to actually do those urgent tests. We only visited her twice, and then she advised us to go to the public sector, to use the public route, so that we're able to access as many specialists as possible, and also to be able to access different specialists in different hospitals, because you do the different tests in different hospitals depending on where these specialists are at the time, as most of them are shared amongst hospitals in the region. For context, I live in the region of Lombardia, which is in the northern part of Italy. So once we were assigned, they give you a folder to show that now you are, being followed by such and such a department. I was followed by the one responsible for high-risk pregnancies. So they give you the next appointment, they do the ultrasounds, they give you some medicine to take, they recommend some vitamins. I was prescribed to take folic acid and a bunch of other pregnancy vitamins, and some special medicine to prevent my baby again from getting the condition that I have. And then I had to do lots of tests and go to the hospital when I was required to. You meet a different gynecologist at every appointment. So it was really strange changing from the one that we were used to, the first 2 appointments, because I thought we had created kind of a bond, because we had also gotten her phone number, we had gotten her email address, and I would message her at every inconvenience or at every slight worry that I had in the earlier stages of the pregnancy. And then eventually we had to go to the hospital and meet other people who work differently, so that stressed me a little bit. So if you prefer to use private, I think that is a safer way, because then you have one person following you, and then you don't have to revisit your file as many times as whoever comes. So for every visit up until the final stage, the final month, we had different gynecologists, different nurses, different obstetricians that were following our file. And there's an advantage and a disadvantage to that. So the advantage is that you get a varied opinion from different specialists, whereas it disorganized me at some point, because then they used to organize the folder a different way. Each of them wanted it organized in a different way. So the ultrasounds one side, the test results one side, then when you find another one, they want the reverse. So that would really stress me every time they would ask me for certain documents, especially the ones that I had done at a different hospital. So after that, you get the initial tests done. You'll have to do blood tests and urine tests, and they're going to determine a lot of things. They're going to test for a bunch of things: your blood type, and a lot of things. And then that will determine whether they will classify you as a normal pregnancy or a high-risk pregnancy, and that is also going to determine how often you visit the hospital. If you have a normal pregnancy, it will be once a month, so you'll have your antenatal visit once every month, and usually the appointment for the next visit is given to you on the previous visit. So if you're visiting, let's say in March, you'll get the one for April today, and then when you visit in April, you'll get the one for May. I think it's also worth mentioning that you don't get all the tests done in the same hospital. So for context, I got mine done at Magenta Hospital near where I live. Most of them were done there, and we were able to have almost all of them booked at that hospital. But then the very highly specific ones, for instance, one for Rosalia was done in the hospital of Pavia, and then I had some done at a hospital in Como, then others done in Milan, in Policlinico di Milano. It was quite annoying, to be honest, because they were in different cities, quite far away from home. When you're pregnant, you can easily be angered, like you can easily be upset about anything, and that could be one of them. So I would be really frustrated every time my next appointment would be for the tests would be in a different city. That means you are having to wake up early, because most of them are like 10 a.m. and I mean, traveling from my place to Pavia took me about 2.5 hours or 3 hours by public transport. So that means being on the bus or on the move by like 7 a.m. to make it at 10. So the one I was talking about was Rosalia. I thought that once we are immunized or vaccinated in Uganda against measles, that covers everything, because I know that Rosalia in English is like rubella. I thought it's a type of measles, but no, they actually required something deeper, so I had to go for an extra test and to make sure that the baby doesn't have Rosalia and all of that. So they had to also do some tests on the fetus, on the baby. It was quite deep. I had to go twice. Quite annoying. Good thing is that all the results would come out by email or by on the app that I told you about, which is Fascicolo Sanitaria. It was quite annoying. However, the ones that I had to do here at the hospital near my home was like a breath of fresh air. I got to know the nurses. They were different all the time, but I got to know them because, if you go often, you meet at least twice or thrice, and it became easier because then I knew that I had to get blood samples and then urine. So also the routine to understand how to do things, you have to collect containers on your previous visit so that you can be able to store the urine. When are you supposed to take the urine? They need the one for early in the morning before you eat anything. So it was a bit challenging. Also, I must say that everything is in Italian, so if you don't speak Italian, or if you speak basic Italian, you might struggle a little bit, but they are very, very kind. The medical staff, oh my god, are the kindest people in Italy. That one, I have to say, and I appreciate them a lot. They were very, very kind. I remember I lost my folder. They give you a folder with all your documents, and I think during the 5th month, I lost the folder. Oh my god, I was so frustrated. I lost all the documents because once you go to the hospital, it's a different doctor, it's a different gynecologist. Then they have to go through the records, and if you don't have the records, good thing they have a centralized system, so they will just open up my Fascicolo Sanitaria and look at everything. However, if you have them in copy form, it would make your life or their life easier, and then that means I had to go back and print everything. But then luckily I was able to recover the folder. It was lost on a bus, and then the bus called me and then they gave it to me. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, so when you're booking to do the tests, it depends on availability of slots. So they have a given number of slots per hospital, and if you don't have, if there's no availability in the hospital nearest to you or where you're doing your antenatal visits, they usually send you to a different hospital. And also depends on the specialists. So some hospitals, for instance, Pavia is known for rare illnesses, so if you have a rare illness, they will send you there to do that test. They needed to confirm our blood groups, me and my partners, to determine if the baby would be kept until full term or not. We had to go to Milan because the hematology biggest hub is there. I mean, it depends. I remember also I had to do a test on Down syndrome, and that was done in Abbiate Grasso, which is a different, so it depends on where the specialist is sitting, because at some point I met that doctor that was there in, you know, my hospital at one antenatal visit, one random antenatal visit, and we were like, oops, here you are again. And she said that they keep on rotating them in different hospitals. That is why it cannot be guaranteed where you're going to do your tests. One thing that I really liked about being pregnant in Italy is that there is pregnancy privilege. You guys let me know, do you have pregnancy privilege where you are, or have you experienced this, or have you seen people experience it? It was really nice to not line up like everybody in the hospital. Literally we had our own numbers, and you would be served in about 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And if there was a pregnant woman, you know, on the call, it was almost instant that there was an ambulance. I remember we had to call the ambulance twice, and they were here in like 4 minutes. We have neighbors that are, you know, elderly people, and the ambulance usually comes after like 30 minutes, after 40 minutes, depending, sometimes after like 20 minutes, but ours was really instant. They'll be like, oh, we'll be there in 2 minutes, we'll be there in 3 minutes, we'll be there in 4 minutes. Maximum it took them was 5 minutes, and I really, you know, enjoyed that. When I would go to shops, they'd look at my time and be like, oh, you can pass, you can pass. So that felt really nice. I also remember we went to a restaurant where we had not booked, and I just, you know, started touching my tummy. And then there was a long queue of people waiting, and everybody was like, oh, you can go to the front, you can go to the front. And then the hostess that was sitting people was like, oh, excuse me, madam, you can come in already, you can come in already. So that felt really, really nice, and I miss it. As soon as the baby was born, that was like, no. So now the priority is given to the child and not to the mother. It was really nice. I enjoyed pregnancy privilege so much. Oh, another thing that I must say that is a bit different from my country is, or any other African country probably, you guys can advise me or you can comment down below and let me know, is that they do test for high risk illnesses or rare illnesses like sickle cell, they test for Down syndrome and many others, and then you're advised accordingly, according to the risk that you carry. So for instance, they tested us, and they tested me, and I had a certain risk for sickle cell syndrome. However, the baby didn't have it. So they also tested for some other sicknesses, and I did have the risk because I was a carrier, but the baby didn't have them. So that is why we were able to keep the baby. However, the midwife told us on the first visit that since you carry this risk, we're going to test at week so and so, and if we find that the baby has a high risk, unfortunately you're going to have to terminate the pregnancy, which is not, you know, for instance in Uganda, once you have your baby, once you're pregnant, whether you give birth to a child that has sickle cell or that has, you know, some other illness, it's really up to the mother. Yeah, it's not up to like the medical team. Here they say that because it costs a lot on the national insurance and health insurance, and then also they don't want the child apparently to suffer, so they'd rather you don't bring the child to the world than actually bring a child who's going to be sickly all the time. So it's basic. I'm not saying that they're not children with maybe Down syndrome or rare illnesses, however they are very few, and the responsibility entirely fell on the parents. They made the decisions. The parents are the ones that made the decision to actually have a child like this. Okay, but usually you're advised at a certain time to terminate the pregnancy or to not carry until full term. One thing that I've remembered is that now I can laugh, but actually it's a testimony. I remember in the first trimester I was so stressed. Like I had morning sickness. I was so stressed. I lost weight. I couldn't sleep. I was really, really stressed when we did the first blood tests, and I was told that they're not sure I could keep the baby because of my condition. I was like, what do you mean? This is my child, it's me who decides. I was like, God forbid, that is not going to happen. That's not, I started quoting Bible verses, and I was like, God, can you help me, please? I've wanted this child for a long time. Can you please help me? And because he is a God of wonders, I serve a mighty God. You know, my baby was okay when they checked the fetus. So like 100% baby's fine, no problem, no worries. Even at birth, baby was checked. Of course, we keep going to progressive tests, and we thank God that she is fine and okay. I think that's it. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's me telling you that now I am a mom. I didn't really introduce that, or I didn't really mention that, or officially let my YouTube community know that I'm a mom. But if you follow me on Instagram, you already know that I'm a mom, and I do post photos of us there. I will probably pop up a photo here for you guys to have a look. I do have a beautiful baby girl, and I'm now a girl mom. So if you would like the story